In the last video, we emitted an action. That action was submitted to the reducer, and based on the reducer, we return an updated state that doesn't include the post that was just removed. Now it's time to add posts instead of just removing them. And let's actually go ahead and put back our instance of add photo as well as the routing that we created for it previously. Now, as for the add photo component we had previously, obviously we don't have an add photo method anymore. If you remember, we used this method before to directly change the state that lived inside of our main component. We're not doing this anymore, so go ahead and safely remove it. All right, now back to the browser. If you remember, and if I press this button, remember this is a link type, which will change our URL to say /add photo right here. And upon changing the URL to add photo, it's going to match the path of this route and render the add photo screen. Okay, so try it out. And indeed, it does change the URL, but it doesn't actually work. Generally, React Router and Redux work just fine together. However, when connecting a component to a Redux store via connect, the component stops updating the location change. A fix was made for this by going over to wherever we're connecting our main component to the store and importing with router from React Router. And now simply wrap the entire thing with router. Let's try the router now. Go back to Google Chrome. It worked, but let's just go ahead and press our button. Okay, everything seems to work well. Okay, now that was a tiny roadblock that took us away from our actual goal, which was whenever we submit a form containing the image URL and caption, we want to emit an action to our reducer containing this payload of information, and the reducer will simply update the current state such that it includes that new post in our post array. So what we'll do is we'll first remove the logic we had previously for add photo right here inside of addphoto.js. We still want to access the description, image link, and all that when we submit the form, so you can go ahead and leave it. And right here is where we will emit our action. So we have to declare our action first, and inside of actions.js is where we will do so. We're going to export an action creator, a function, and we'll call that function add post. And that action creator will take in a post that was just submitted. Post. That's going to be the payload that we give our action so that it can return that payload to the reducer. So return, and the type of the action will simply be type add post. And the payload we must give the reducer will be the post itself, equaling the post submitted by the form and passed into the action. And you know what? Because the key and the value have the same name, we can go ahead and use ES6 to write it like so. This is the same thing as saying that, except that with ES6, it's just more concise. Let's do that to our index in the other action as well, and we should still be good. All right, now inside of app.js, instead of importing just the remove action, we can go ahead and import every single action creator in that file like so, with an asterisk, and downcast it to a variable called actions. And now, instead of passing in just the remove action, we'll pass in our multitude of actions. And now if we go to main.js, we're able to write this.props.add, etc. But that's not where we need to access it. We need to access this action inside of add photo. And it's the main component where we injected the dispatch methods needed to emit actions, being that the main component is the only component that's connected to our Redux store. It's connected to the store such that it contains the Redux state and dispatch methods, and it has them in its props, as you can see here. To use Redux in other components, what we'll do is, just like we passed in all of main's props to photo wall and individualized them with the spread operator, we'll do the same thing for the add photo component. So go ahead and remove this prop. We don't need it anymore. I should have removed it earlier. And now pass in all of main's props like so. This.props. By passing in all of this data to add photos props, we're able to interact with Redux right here. And we'll do so by emitting an action with this.props, and the action we'll emit is add post. I believe that's what we called it. Indeed we did. All right. And remember, add post takes in a payload of information such that we're going to pass in the post that was just submitted. And upon emitting this action, when we submit the form, you should know that this action will go straight to the reducer. And when it does, we'll add it as a case to our switch statement. If the action type that was emitted is of type, let's put a case statement first. If the action that was just emitted is of type add posts, then we want to return the current state of our app, but such that it includes the new photo. So once again, return an array. That array is going to contain the current state. And remember, this state represents the array of posts currently present in our photo wall. We want to individualize each element in that array with the spread operator. And now with the current state, with the current post in our photo wall, we'll add the new post that was just submitted. Action.posts. All right, before we run this, I know we've been through a lot already in this video, so let's just do a quick recap. We submit the form, it emits an action, that action goes to the reducer, and since that action is of type add post, it'll return the current state, the current array of posts, and that array will also contain the post that was just submitted and passed into our action as payload. Let's test it. Let's go to Google Chrome. We seem to have an error, and that is quite a silly one. I forgot to write as to downcast all of our actions to this variable, to dump all of our actions on this variable, and thereby bind them all to our props. But anyway, back to Chrome. There should be no more errors. Press on the plus icon. I'll just get a random link that we already did before, and the description will be cool lake. Press posts, and we seem to have forgotten something, and that is to go back to our main page as soon as we submit the form. And if you remember from before, we did that with the history object. History always knows the current location of the app, and we used it to navigate back to our main page. So we'll need to pass in history as a prop to add photo. So pass in history as a prop to add photo on history is equal to history. And now inside of add photo, we can access it via props. This.props.onHistory. And we'll update the address bar to the empty path /, which matches this route right here. and should therefore take us back to our main page with the photo wall and all. So let's try it out. I'm going to put a random link, put a description of cool picture, press post. It takes us back and it appends that picture onto our state. All right, so quick recap. We're emitting an action, giving it payload. That action is interpreted inside of the reducer such that we're returning an updated state, which has the current post that was just submitted. Upon updating the state, render gets called again and maps over the array of posts to add in our new picture. And there is one more thing I want to add, and that is whenever we click our logo, it needs to bring us back to our home page. Right now, we have two titles, one being rendered specifically inside of add photo, and another one being rendered inside of main.js. So let's go ahead and remove both of these titles for now. This can go, and this can go as well. And instead, we'll have a single title that's always present in our application. So it's not going to be limited to a specific route. It'll be right on top of everything. So opening tag h1, closing tag h1, and instead of its content being a simple string, it will be a link tag. Opening tag link and closing tag link. If you don't know what a link tag is by now, please see the React router section. Anyways, that link tag, when we press it, it will change the URL to equal to an empty path of just slash. And by changing it to an empty path, it should match this route right here and take us back to our home page. So let's give our link some text of photo wall. And now back to our browser. There's our awesome title. Its content is now link. If I go on another page, change the URL to add photo, press on the logo, it takes us back. So to make this look like the title we had initially, we have to make sure that the link within our header has no decorations with a color of black. So back to our style sheet, declare a rule set for h1a. Remember, a is an anchor tag, and as we discussed before, links are pretty much anchor tags that contain an href, and we're modifying the link within the header such that its color has to be black. Color black. With no decorations. Text decorations will be none. Let's go back to our browser, see how everything looks, and we are good. That is it for this video. We were able to successfully convert all of our code such that the app now uses Redux. Notice how easy it is to manage our state since we're only updating it in a single place, the reducer. Instead of directly changing our state in every single component, we've officially made state management for our application more predictable. In the next video, we'll look at the Redux DevTools.